Well, hello, Saskatchewan. It is a team effort as we head into the Family Day long weekend in Saskatchewan. Yeah, everybody's going to be around. I'm Dave Thomas. Colson Schultz is over there. Coming in a moment is going to be Curtis Gammon. And then we've got Barney Shynkaruk going to slide in a little bit as well. That as we talk sports, and boy, is there a ton of things going on, and we've got some special guests to help elaborate them with you. Coming up in just a few moments from now, we'll hear from Farhan Lalji, of course, fresh off Super Bowl 60. We'll get his take on the game, CFL Free Agency as a whole, as well as what's happening at the Olympics, and a former Vancouver Canucks captain is shining. The men's hockey team is rolling, or at least they were. We'll tell you what's happening in that game as it's ongoing as we speak this afternoon. And you know what? You've heard often that old joke that I went to the fights and a hockey game broke out. Well, it was almost a breakout of a fight in the men's curling action this afternoon as Brad Jacobs won his second game of the day. But boy, tensions were high as they took on the Swedes. Sweden fell to 0-3. Canada picked up a big victory. And as I say, tensions were high when it came to potential hogline violations. And we're talking curling, and when we are, we're going to be bringing in a special guest in Matt Ring. Next week, a national competition is coming to Regina. He is going to be a part of that volunteer organizing committee, and then he's going to a national championship of his own as he curls with Regina's own Kelly Knapp. And they are the provincial champions, and they will be curling in the Brier next month. We'll find out where their preparations are at, as well as what's coming to town next week and how you can get involved in just some of that action. Also, overseas today, Rachel Holman had a slip-up, a very rare one. Her fifth loss in almost 2 calendar years, and it happened to the U.S. at the Olympics. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened with the mixed doubles team of Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman. We'll explore and find out whether or not things are where they should be. The Toronto Blue Jays pulled off a big trade today. Joey Loperfido, who was acquired from Houston, was sent back to Houston for Jesus Sanchez. Yeah, baseball is on, and one young Saskatchewanian has got an MLB invite and an opportunity to make a statement in his career. He is Thomas Ireland, and he is going to be joining Barney Shynkaruk a little bit later on. And also on the go, I haven't even talked about local hockey yet, Colson. Pretty good, hey? Like that must be like 3 minutes. No? 4? Don't time me.
About 3.
3, okay. 3 minutes. I'm not even at local hockey yet. But on campus this weekend, going to be a big playoff game as the University of Regina Cougars are hosting a playoff game. It goes tomorrow night, and it's going to be a very interesting one because they don't know who their opponent is. We do know who their interim head coach is in Michaela Kleisinger, and she'll be joining Barney as well here on the SportsCage on this Friday afternoon. Now, local hockey-wise, it's a big time for the Regina Pats. Yes, they are in the midst of playing 5 games in 7 days. Tonight is game 3 in 4 nights, as they take on the Moose Jaw Warriors. Puck drop over at the Brand Center is at 7 o'clock. Dante DeCarry on the call, start at 6:30 here on 620 CKRM. But you look at the Regina Pats, and they are in the thick of it right now when it comes to the playoffs. They're 1 point back of Red Deer for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. And, of course, the Moose Jaw Warriors are 4 points up on the Pats for 7th. So these two teams play a back-to-back home-and-home series starting tonight, as I mentioned, at the Brand Center at 7 o'clock. Then they head back to the Temple Gardens Center tomorrow in Moose Jaw. The Pats will wrap up their weekend on Monday when they take on the Swift Current Broncos. And I don't want to say it's now or never, but at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for the Regina Pats playing the teams that are right ahead of them in the standings to make a statement. And they made a big one back on Wednesday night in Saskatoon. They're down a goal in the last minute of play. They get a goal waved off, then the fluky penalty that allows them to score a 6-man goal, right, because they had the net empty. Maddox Schultz scored his second of the night at that point, and then overtime, he walks out of the right wing corner and scores an absolute beauty. His first WHL hat trick that propels the Pats to a win, gives him the franchise record for the youngest player ever to get a hat trick in a Pats uniform. And it was gigantic. And saying that, I think we overlooked the clutch performer in the game. We'll talk about that as well as highlight everything else that's happening in the world of sports. Big news today also from the Olympics if you're a fan of slopestyle or just a fan of Regina's own Mark McMorris. Of course, he had that horrible crash getting set for the Big Sky competition. Well, the news today is that Mark McMorris has been cleared and he can participate in the slopestyle, which is his signature event. He has got 3 bronze medals to his credit over 3 different games. And he's got an opportunity to medal in this one, and the qualifying will begin on Monday. But like I say, today he was cleared. He put an Instagram post out posting that he is so excited and grateful just to be back for the opportunity. He said that the evaluation for his concussion that he underwent was absolutely rigorous, but he passed it all. So now he can compete, and again, Monday is when he is going to be back on the slopes in Italy as part of the Olympic Games. Now, if you're wondering what's happening in the Canada-Switzerland game, it started off real well for Canada. They were up 2-0 early. However, the Swiss got a late goal, and right now they're very early into the second period with the Canadians still leading 2-1. Back home in Riderville, a couple of player signings today. And if you heard Luke Mullender, or maybe you haven't, maybe you didn't catch Luke Mullender on this very program with Barney Shynkaruk. Luke was talking about Rider Nation needing to have faith when it comes to Jeremy O'Day and Kyle Carson and the entire football operations department of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, saying they recruit well. And we met with Vice President of Football Operations and General Manager Jeremy O'Day, and we mentioned that, hey, you know, there are some American CFL free agent receivers that are still in the market, but you're still bringing guys in. So at the end of the day, what does that mean? And he said, well, it means we got an opportunity to look at some younger guys. 2 years ago, nobody knew who Dante Myers or Keyshawn Johnson were. Now, we're all freaking out that they're not back. Well, today, Saskatchewan Roughriders signed a pair of players and a Super Bowl champion, as a matter of fact, in former Los Angeles Rams running back Darrell Henderson Jr., 28-year-old, comes with a resume, jumps off the page, selected in the 3rd round, 70th overall of the 2019 NFL draft by the Rams, spent 5 seasons in LA from 2019 to 2023. Going to be very, very interesting to see him come in and how he's going to fit in. Also, defensive back James Burgess Jr. Again, outstanding college career. Had an opportunity, had a shot in the National Football League, and he is going to come in as well as, of course, there are some secondary positions that are going to be up for grabs. DeMarcus Fields, Marcus Sales, and Tavon Campbell are all locked in. Who's going to play that other half spot? Of course, CJ Rivas has departed for the Ottawa Red Blacks. He even played linebacker at some points. So it will be interesting to see how that void becomes filled. But again, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are doing their best recruiting job, and we're going to see how that transpires. Now, of course, you can always join in the conversation. We love hearing from you out on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. Have a question for any of today's guests? We want to know about it. Have thoughts on the tussle at the curling game at the Olympics between Brad Jacobs and Nicholas Edin of Sweden.
I think it was more of a spat.
Spat? What did I call it? Tussle?
Tussle? There wasn't any altercation, so that's where I'm like, tussle might be too strong.
There were no fisticuffs, that's true, but you don't see that in curling very often.
Not anymore.
No, and it's going to be shown on all the rights holders' highlights, right? Mm-hmm. But there's you don't see teams get that animated. Sweden had just given up a 4 spot to Team Canada, so they were obviously very clearly frustrated at the whole thing. But do you like seeing that emotion in what's supposed to be the ultimate sportsmanship game in curling? Just throwing that out there. Like, what do you can see what it means, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I think seeing any emotion, right, is a good thing, especially curling's not a boring sport, in my opinion. Some people would say it is. But seeing emotion makes it more interesting. It's why people love the fights in hockey. It's because you're seeing people care about the outcome of the game. Right?
Interesting. There will be some curling purists, though, that are absolutely horrified by this, though, right?
It depends on how far ago they started being a fan of curling. Because if they're from the days when you could still smoke on the ice, they'd probably say, yeah, back to our roots, let's go.
I'd be curious at what point. There's got to be a curling club in Saskatchewan, I bet you, still with an ashtray on the ice. Like, probably a lot have been removed, but probably at least one, no? Somewhere.
Now I just want to look up and see if there's any that publicly display. Yeah, we're open to smoking still. Because that's probably the easiest way I can find out right now.
Well, I'm not suggesting that people actually smoke while they curl, but I'm just saying that it was a possibility.
It depends if the ashtray was built into something or if it was just like put on a table. Because if it's built into like a railing or something, then yeah, it's still there.
It's still there, true.
But
very true. But yeah, I was interested to see that level of emotion. And again, over a hog line violation or perceived hog line violation. And that might rattle a team, right? That could rattle someone real quick. And it didn't seem to have any effect on either team, as both kind of played it out, as that's what they were kind of doing in the 10th end anyways. I was worried about Rachel Homan. She dropped a 9-8 decision to the U.S. earlier today, and her team really, really struggled to read the ice. And if you go back to the mixed doubles team that didn't qualify for the playoffs in Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman, and I'm not suggesting anything aside from the facts that they didn't qualify for the playoffs, but they said one of the reasons that they struggled was they were having problems reading the ice because the ice was changing. And that's what Homan's team was doing, and Homan's the best in the world. Hands down.
Yeah, you're not going to find many people arguing with you on that one.
No, but if she had a problem reading the ice, it makes you wonder, right? Like, you know the old saying, you can't get too much of a good thing?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
So, in Canada, if you are playing at a national competition, if you're playing at a provincial competition, you are getting the best of the best when it comes to ice. Canadian ice makers are in Italy right now. They have made the ice for the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
If you are always performing on pristine ice surfaces, and then something goes a little awry, have you had too much of a good thing?
Maybe. That's a very interesting thought and a very interesting way to think of it. Definitely could be a thing, though.
So if, I don't know, how would Rachel Homan do on a small town Saski? Maybe I wouldn't throw her on a natural ice surface because that would hurt.
That's a whole different can of worms.
But go to a curling club, go to Wynyard or something, right?
Exactly.
Tell me how it would work. Because if you're used to the best,
it'd be fun to see. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. NFL report cards from the NFLPA came out today. I don't know if you like that or not, but we're going to discuss that coming up in just a little bit as they follow the suit of the CFLPA and more. But coming up after a break, we are going to check in and find out what happened at Super Bowl 60, get the latest read on the Olympics and more. Our friend Farhan Lalji is coming up next. This is the Sports Cage. It's on a Friday, and of course, it's all here, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Yes, on a Friday. It's Dave Thomas filling in for Barney Shynkaruk. Time to head out on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. The pizza known worldwide for a reason, loaded with toppings of Western Canadian ingredients and always cooked to perfection. Farhan Lalji, have you recovered from Super Bowl 60?
I have recovered, but look, before we get there, where is Barney today? I've never met a guy that has more vacation days than that guy.
Hey, I'm trying to build towards that contract level, so let's not go ahead and put it down.
I'm telling you, between you and Colson, like everybody's just carrying this guy. What the heck?
Hey, I see a chiropractor twice a week for a reason. I'll just leave it there.
There you go. I'm with you. I have recovered. It was a good week. Different kind of a setup because, the activities were so spread out, right? So the teams, I think the Patriots were at Stanford, the Seahawks were at San Jose State. Both teams are staying in San Jose. All the media availabilities were in San Jose, and we were in San Francisco. So it made for some interesting commute times the first few days of the week when we were heading down to San Jose to cover the teams. Once we got Thursday evening and through the game, then things kind of settled down a bit from that end. But it was, it wasn't a great game, but it was a good week for sure.
What was the atmosphere like in the stadium? It seemed to vary from differing points in the game from the television view that we saw.
It was good, right? I mean, look, the Super Bowl is different than a regular football game, including an NFC or an AFC championship game, because it's very corporate, right? You only get a limited number of the team's actual fan bases that get to buy tickets. You know, a lot of sponsors and contest winners and, you know, things like that make their way to a Super Bowl. So it was a pretty even crowd, maybe a little more Seahawk than Patriots, just because of where the game was and the fact that, you know, you probably still have a lot of Patriot fans still recovering from all those Super Bowl appearances previously. But yeah, you know, the atmosphere was what you'd expect of a Super Bowl, right? The other games have more atmosphere. I was at the NFC Championship game in Seattle 2 weeks earlier, and it was just on fire, right? I mean, just the noise and the intensity was different. Even players will tell you. We talked to Ernest Jones during the week, and he's like, you know, the NFC Championship, that's the harder game to get through, right? And so, you know, so they were able to get through, and it kind of carried them forward the rest of the way. But, you know, and then the Bad Bunny thing was interesting. I think people were really, really interested, right? Like, you know, even on the TV side, I think they had 123 million that watched at halftime, and I think it was the second highest viewed Super Bowl halftime ever. But, you know, in the stadium, people were interested, but they weren't necessarily, you know, up and grooving. It wasn't necessarily that kind of act for them. For the crowd that was there, you take that act and you put it in Miami or you put it in a home stadium, and you'd probably get an entirely different vibe as well.
What was your takeaway then from the football game itself? It depends on the narrative that you want to read. Some say it's the worst Super Bowl game ever. You can go to the other end of the spectrum. It was the best defensive display ever in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what? I'm somewhere in between, and I say that because I do consider myself a bit of a purist, and I appreciate good defense, but generally I want to see a few more points get scored. You know, when you look at Seattle, there were a couple of drives in the first and third quarter which they made look easy till they got to the red zone, and then they kind of bogged down. So Seattle's defense is exceptional. So what Seattle was able to do defensively to New England didn't necessarily surprise me. You know, I kept waiting for something, and that something didn't happen until the fourth quarter when the game was pretty much over, and then Drake May was able to put up some empty calorie yards. The other way around surprised me a bit. You know, I mean, I know the Patriots did some good things defensively during the year, but I did think that Seattle would probably be able to finish drives better than they did. So, you know, New England just never got things going, but Seattle's defense was able to put them in a vice grip, and it just shows how good they are and have been all season. And then Mike McDonald took a different approach to it, right? He barely blitzed. They had the fourth lowest blitz rate in the league during the regular season, but, you know, first three drives, they brought pressure. We saw Devin Witherspoon get home, and I think that really took New England by surprise. That Seattle saw those two young guys on the left side of that offensive line, and they just attacked them relentlessly.
Farhan Lalji joining us. Of course, it is a Friday. If you need to get financially fit, check out Cooperators. They can get you working today. And when you were working on the Super Bowl, you brought up the point that I thought was fascinating when you mentioned the pressures and or the lack that Seattle used through the regular season. Were you surprised as well and taken off guard that they had decided to go that route with the defense that was oh so dominant all year without it?
Yeah, a little bit, right? I mean, you know, like I've seen McDonald do a bit more of that when he was in Baltimore than maybe he necessarily did in Seattle. And there were times early in the year when they were dealing with a lot of injuries defensively where he dialed up a little bit more in the way of pressures during the first half of the season because they weren't consistently able to get home with four the way they did in the second half. So, you know, he's got that in his bag. I just didn't think he would have respected the Patriots offense enough to feel the need to do that. But, you know, you get 2 weeks, you got time on your hands, you come up with stuff, and sometimes the surprise element is effective, and it certainly was in this game. So I was, you know, we were talking about how good Seattle's defense was going into the game, and I just felt that, you know, maybe part of it too is that I just don't think there was a lot of fear factor when it came to New England's receivers. Whereas with other receiving cores, you want more players in zone coverage, you want more players in position to rally and make plays and tackle. That, you know, you have to get home with four. And maybe here they just didn't feel that level of threat with New England's receiving core that they were able to take some chances.
All right. We talked about this last Friday and the last point on the Super Bowl. You were quick to point out when I asked if this was an opportunity for Drake May to go ahead, step up, and prove himself, and you said it's only his second year. Still feel that way, and what was your takeaway on his performance?
Yeah, look, he wasn't good, right? I mean, and to be quite honest, I think Sam Darnold was pretty average as well. He just didn't make the big mistakes, and Drake didn't until some moments in the second half when he was pressing, and there was a little less, you know, to be lost at that point than taking a few chances. I thought he was fine. Like, for a second-year player to get to that stage and to be the runner-up for the league's MVP, I'm not going to sit here and throw this kid under the bus. I just think that he's got better days ahead. Whatever he's been able to do in his first 2 years, I think should be applauded. And I think they need to improve their receiving core, right? Like, they don't have a great tight end. Stephon Diggs is your best receiver. That probably means you need some help. And all those receivers are getting older too, right? It's not like a young group of guys that's working its way in. So they've got to fix some things and give this kid some more weapons, because that was also apparent. Even when he had time and was looking, guys weren't getting open. And then there were times where, watching what he did earlier in the playoffs in terms of his ability to escape, my biggest storyline coming into the game was, could Drake May take over the game on third down with his legs? And he didn't, right? There were some moments in the second half, but not really. I mean, the game was over at that point. And there were some times where he got sacked where I thought he would have been able to escape. There were some lanes there. He got taken down by one hand. So those were a few moments where maybe he looked a little intimidated, but I don't know that he was intimidated by the Super Bowl stage, maybe just an elite defense. But I like this kid, and what he's done, the Patriots should feel pretty good about what they've got at quarterback going forward.
Farhan Lalji from TSN, back north of the border, and the CFL Free Agency officially opened on February 10th. And reading the social media posts that I've seen, there are some fans that feel let down, thinking it was kind of lackluster on February the 10th. Where do you stand in where we see what happened with the negotiation window and then the player official signings?
It was lackluster, and it has been previously, and it's like that in the NFL, and it's like that in the NBA, right, where the communication window is where deals get made, it's where deals get leaked, and, it behooves teams and agents to kind of leak the information so they can kind of get on with the next guy and potentially set the market for the next guy, and so just to have that kind of clarity, personally, I think helps both sides. So I think an 8-day negotiation window is ridiculous. Quite honestly, I know the league and the PA discussed shortening that, like in the weeks leading up to free agency, but the PA didn't think it was necessarily in their best interest. But I think going forward, it's absolutely going to get shortened. I think they need to have it earlier. The longer you wait, the more time there is to tamper. There's no reason for this to not happen earlier in January. There's going to be some players that want to go through their NFL windows and go through tryouts, and that might affect the market a little bit. But overall, this should happen earlier. And if you want to have a negotiation window, make it quick, or don't have one at all, and don't get bent out of shape if there's a little bit of tampering involved here. So, the 10th is lackluster, but the first was exciting, right? A lot got done, and
Yep.
What we see is, there's very few big name guys available, right? I mean, generally there's 10 to 12 guys that are really worth talking about. Most of the teams get their business done and get their guys signed. And truly, from a rider perspective, I was really impressed with what they were able to do in the weeks leading up to it. They had a lot of big name free agents. And the fact is, they were able to keep the entire offense together. Dante Myers notwithstanding, because he's trying the NFL, but they didn't lose an offensive player to free agency. And, they lost a couple of defensive players, but even then, just to get like Nelson Lacombo done at the last second, I thought the Riders did really, really well to keep as much of the band together as they did. And even in the case of losing a guy like Malik Carney, you add a James Vaughters, who's a veteran player and at least a reasonable rotation guy who had 6 sacks last year. So, they were able to get some things done in the return game with some additions there with Letcher. So overall, I think Jeremy O'Day did a really good job in the Riders' attempt to repeat here.
Now we turn our attention to the Olympic Games that are on in Italy. Are you following along? Which sports captivate you?
Well, really, I've become less Olympic as we go. I'm interested in the hockey, especially because we haven't seen, the last the NHLers in there the last couple of times. So seeing the men and the women play, I think, is interesting to me. First of all, what's the score in this game? Just because I've been driving and talking to you, has the score changed in the last 15 minutes?
No, they're still going. Canada is going strong right now, 3-1.
Perfect. Yeah, and so, and the Swiss are actually pretty good, just watching the first period of that game, and you can see just the amount of NHL experience they have, and they're not necessarily nervous about it, like maybe what Canada was able to get away with in the last game, right? So this team looks really, really good. Love watching Macklin Celebrini and what he's doing. Love watching Bo Horvat, who I had a lot of time for in his previous time as a Canuck, and just seeing McDavid and McKinnon and the best of the best play, what's cool is if you're a Vancouver fan, you get to cheer for McDavid, right? Whereas you're not going to do that during the regular season, and so just to have that in terms of Canadians supporting this team is a lot of fun. And I just watching the way they're playing, we'll see what the goaltending does when they're actually forced to do more. But in terms of that, their skaters, they're the best team in the league or on the planet in the games.
Yeah. So you mentioned Bo Horvat, and that immediately perked my ears up. Being a Vancouver Canucks follower, I was devastated when they traded him. And again, we won't go down that road. But I was surprised that he was on the roster, but he's got a role.
Yeah, and watching him play yesterday was impressive, right? Especially in the first period. He was everywhere, right? You could just see the impact that he was making in the game before he scored the goal. And, the fact that he's out there in PK situations, unfortunately, was switch goal in this game. But I think he's done well. I think that, I've said before the Canucks made a mistake when they chose JT Miller over Bo Horvat, and I've continued to say that for the last 3 years. So from a character perspective and all of it, I think this guy has taken his game to a level many people thought it couldn't get to. So he is a complete player. Sidney Crosby and others rave about the 200-footness of his game, that he can just play in all situations, and certainly a player the Canucks could have used at this point.
Interesting discussion around the Thomas table with my two sons. They said, what does the NHL get out of being in the Olympics? And I said, well, it's the exposure. It's the global awareness. What do the Vancouver Canucks, or a club in the National Hockey League, what do they get out of their players being in the Olympics?
Well, I mean, I think for a lot of teams, it's just the ability to say we've got Olympians on our roster. Now, not all Olympians are created equal, right? Like the Canucks don't have a Team Canada player. They no longer have Team USA players, watching Quinn Hughes and JT Miller play for them. But, they've got others sprinkled around the tournament, whether it be a Teddy Bluger playing for Latvia, or, even David Camp, who's like a fourth-line player getting to play. Like there's guys there that you can still cheer for and feel good about, because, if you're a Canuck fan, there's very little to feel good about during the course of this season, right? And it's probably going to be like that for a while here in Vancouver. So just the fact that you've got some of those guys and can celebrate the games a little bit differently is a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of the way, if you're a junior hockey fan, if you're a fan of the World Juniors, it's similar, right? Like everyone's going to cheer for Canada if you're Canadian, but if you're a Canuck fan and you've got, the star on the Swedish team or the star on the American team, you pay attention to those games a little bit more. And from a league perspective, you're right. I mean, this is not a global sport, right? Like this is not the NBA. It's not soccer. You've got 7 countries that are basically interested, and some more than others, as we know, especially from watching the World Juniors. And, you see what the NFL is doing, right? I mean, they're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to globalize their game, and the Olympics are a part of that.
Okay, before I let you go, this week, broadcast legend Jim Robson passes away, and in Saskatchewan, we get to know him from something known as the skip. Late at night, on clear nights in the winter, sometimes you could get the Vancouver radio station skipping over the mountains, and you could hear his amazing call of Vancouver Canuck games. You had a chance to work with him.
Yeah, I got a chance to know him. Early in my broadcasting career, Jim was still doing it. I got started in 94 and Jim was around until 99. But, when I got to know him in that context, he was so gracious, right? And I viewed him as a legend, and he didn't view himself that way, because if you know Jim Robson, he's just humble. Like humility is his hallmark. And so for me personally, when I think of Jim, it's not necessarily during my broadcast career. I think of Jim as a child, right? And for me personally, I was that kid listening to Canuck games on the radio back then. I mean, the game started at 8 o'clock, and, I had to go to bed, and I had the radio on 0.5 out of 10, just so I could hear a little bit of the game. And radio broadcasters then, you painted the picture, right? And it wasn't about what you saw, it was about how he made you feel. And Jim Robson felt like family. I felt like I lost a piece of my youth when he passed. Myself and a number of broadcasters shed some tears. He was just such a good man, but the way he told the story, the way he told the game, and the stories about him calling games for the Vancouver Mounties, where he literally had to take 2 bats and hit them together to create the sound of a game that was coming to him on a teletext or a telewire, so he could bring that story to Vancouver baseball fans. And he was involved with the Canucks from their time in the Western League to their 82 run, the 94 run, their signature calls, the Greg Adams call in 1994, and the Pavel Bure call, and the Trevor Linden, he'll play on crutches, like all of it. I mean, that was the soundtrack of my youth, and I felt like I lost a piece of that when I lost him. So great family. He had a great run getting to 91, and even when you saw him at 9, I saw him a year ago at the BC Sports Hall of Fame. I got my picture taken with him and Tom Larscheid, and just his recall of everything was remarkable, right? Like, he showed no signs of age as far as his memory was concerned. So a life well lived, and he brought a lot to so many out here.
Life well lived for sure. And of course, you can see the tributes coming in, and that really speaks to what type of man he was. So Farhan, I really appreciate this again on a Friday. Thanks, and we'll do it again soon.
Well, I'm sure very soon, because Lord knows Barney's going to be on vacation for another month.
Actually, he is away next Friday, too.
There you go. Looking forward to talking to you.
Farhan Lalji from TSN joining us. You know what? I should get Farhan to be my agent. Maybe that's where the contract talks will come in handy. Of course, joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline line, of course, known worldwide for a reason, loaded with toppings of Western Canadian ingredients and always cooked to perfection. Western Pizza. 3-1 Canada leads there on the power play. If you want an up-to-date score, sorry, Farhan, I should have had that at the tip of my tongue. Today's Sports Cage brought to you by Nelson Homes, supplying home packages and RTMs for over 65 years. We're going to take another break and come back with more, including the ticker before we get to the top of the hour, as well as Matt Ring is just around the corner. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM. The Sports Cage continues on a Friday, heading into a long weekend. Dave Thomas in for Barney Shynkaruk. Barney is going to sub in a moment. And then we've got Colson Schultz on the other side of the board right before Curtis Gammon subs in for him. I think we've taken care of the moving pieces so far.
Something like that.
Yes. We'll see if we can continue to follow this along the rest of the afternoon. But thanks to Farhan Lalji from TSN joining us. Now it's time to head once again out on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. So pleased to welcome in this next guest, a University of Regina Cougar alumnus, currently on the volunteer committee for the USports Curling Championship coming to Regina next week, and getting set to represent our province at the Brier with Team Kelly Knapp. We welcome Matt Ring to the program this afternoon. Matt, happy Friday. Thanks so much for taking some time and doing this for us.
Right on, Dave. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Well, first off, Brad Jacobs gets a big win this afternoon over Sweden, but the takeaway from this is going to be a conversation that occurred between Team Sweden and Team Canada right at the hog line. And it was debating when the rocks were being released. Does this kind of confrontation surprise you?
Funny you brought that up. I honestly couldn't catch the game this afternoon yet, but I saw the group chats that I'm in are blowing up, and I just can't wait to get home to see what happened. But it's that event where things can get fiery, and it's intensity out there, and you never know for sure.
Okay, so Brad Jacobs wins his second game of the day. Rachel Homan, she fell to the Americans this morning. Having said that, Rachel Homan said that she really struggled with the ice conditions. And if you go back to the mixed doubles event, the Canadians said, we just didn't really respond to the changing ice conditions. How big of a factor? You've played high-level curling for a long time. How big of a factor is that?
Oh, it's huge, and I think it's maybe from the average curling fan's eyes, it's something that gets overseen, and it's you can prep yourself so much for an event, and if you get there and the ice conditions aren't quite the way you practice for or geared up for, it takes. And I think that's what separates the best teams from maybe the mediocre teams, is the ability to adapt to different ice conditions is huge, and it's not the easiest thing to do for sure.
So I made, again, this coming from the guy that has probably thrown less than 3 games worth of rocks in his life. I said, sometimes you can get too much of a good thing. And in Canada, I would submit that we're very well spoiled when it comes to the ice conditions we get to play on, and our elite athletes like yourself get to play on. So if you are always playing on consistently good ice and then it changes, does that mean you've had too much of a good thing?
It's never too much of a good thing. And we're spoiled or privileged in Canada to have some of the best ice makers in the world, and a few of them are over in Italy, I understand, right now for the Olympics too. And even in the province at the Tankard in Melville a few weeks ago, we had some amazing ice conditions, and you try to cater your game to what you might expect to see at an event like that. Like, I know our team practicing before the Tankard, we really tried to memorize some times that we thought we would see with Tankard ice in the past. I know a lot of the top teams, before everyone heads out to Newfoundland, will be testing the memory and making sure they're preparing for the right ice conditions. But again, you get there and you might not have those, what you practice for, and it just takes that adaptability to be at the top.
Well, some of the best teams in our country are going to be adapting to the ice over at the Cali Curling Club next week with the USports Curling Championship. Tell me about what this event is going to look like.
Oh, we started planning, the committee started to get together last, I think April it was, and it's a unique committee because I believe we're the first, and we won't fact check this yet, but it's an all alumni committee, which has been great. All past players, coaches, staff members are part of the host committee, and we wanted to really rally as a group and give back to the curling community the best we can. And a lot of us were fortunate to play in the same event at the Cali 12 years ago in 2014, and it's just kind of a full circle moment for us. But yeah, excited to welcome the best USport university and college curlers from Vancouver is the farthest west school that's coming on the college side, and then New Brunswick is the farthest university from the east, and obviously everything in between. So excited for a jam-packed Cali.
Yeah, for sure. And you can actually get tickets at cougarsandrams.com/tickets if you want to find out more event information. Like you mentioned, though, some of the best teams with young curlers that are also student athletes. You've been down this road. What is it like for the student athletes who compete at, whether it be the college level or the university level?
For sure. I think, well, for myself, and I think I could speak on, well, definitely members of our host committee and other high profile curlers out there, is that this USport or CIS program back in the day, and as well as the college side too, have produced some very good curlers. And it was part of our theme on our marketing team. We called it Who's Next for a lot of our promotions and marketing campaigns. And I think it gets not lost, but a little bit underseen on how many big name curlers have come through these post-secondary programs. For example, like Brett Gallant came from the UPEI program and competed at the same national championship. Sarah Wilkes, obviously with Team Holman, came out of the Laurier program, and Mark Kennedy came through Brandon, went to maybe the first World Universiade Games as well. And obviously Matt Dunstone, who's lost a couple of Brier finals, came up through the University of Manitoba program, and I played against him the last time he was here too. So a lot of big names that have come through this, and it's exciting to be a part of.
You're right. A lot of big names for sure. Yeah. Excellent competition, which is what I'm really, really excited to see. And the University of Regina has fared well, especially last year when you were defending champs and you go to Calgary. The U of R program's excelling.
Oh, it's exciting to see, and kudos to Allison Fisher and the coaching staff and the whole U of R institution for investing time and resources into the program, and it's paid off in spades. Like you said, the men's team represented Canada at the Worlds the other year, and they swept the Can West competition. I believe that was last year too, or 2 years ago. So it's starting to turn into maybe more of a prestige curling club or curling community at the U of R here in Western Canada for sure.
Matt Ring joining us. He is a volunteer on the host committee for the USports College Championships that are coming to Regina next week. And as I mentioned, you're a proud member of Team Kelly Knapp as well. Tell me what the last few weeks have been like. I guess it might seem like an eternity after winning the provincial championship and now needing to wait to go to the Brier until next month.
Yeah, we're itching for sure. I think I could speak from the rest of the guys on that one. And just the Olympic year, it's spread out a bit, which is fine. But no, we're really gearing up these next couple of weeks, and obviously with me volunteering next week, it's going to be pretty busy. But we're excited, and for myself, going to rely on the guys a lot. I'm kind of the Brier rookie on the squad here, and then the other three, and of course Brian Munz, our coach, and Trent Knapp have been there before and been to the big shows. So be lots of fun gearing up the next week in a bit.
Can you put into words how quickly 1980 was brought up to you after you won the provincial championship?
Oh, it comes up every year. I think whoever represents the green and white, that statement comes up for sure, and something you always dream about, maybe winning that and breaking the curse. But again, there's some of the best teams in the world are going to be out in Newfoundland there, and we'll have to be at our best and our sharpest for sure.
Can you take me back to your week in Melville and what it was like? Of course, Ryland Kleider was dynamite all week long, but your team looked like they peaked right at the right time.
That's the key in curling. A lot of curlers can attest to it too. You just gotta peak at the right time. And I know we had a fairly successful year on tour. We just stayed in the province mainly on Saskatchewan curling tour events. We didn't go much on the world tour at all, and had some success, won some spiels, and we're feeling pretty good. And kind of end of October, early November, we were starting to really think, well, what's it going to look like heading into Melville into January, and right after the holiday season is even tough to maybe prep for a big event like that. And we looked at we got an invite to the Tier 2 Grand Slam of Curling event in Martinsville, and hemmed and hawed about, are we able to take time off work? Can we make this work with our families? And we made a decision that to play these top teams in the world on really, really well ice, and Martinsville has been known for having great arena condition ice surfaces. And we decided to make that jump, and we ended up qualifying for playoffs and playing those big teams. We played Team China and Team Norway, who are in Italy right now, and we're right up in the thick of things with them too. So I think that event really kickstarted us in Melville, and a long week, but a week worth it for sure.
So what have you been doing since then? Because obviously you know what the field is going to look like. Can you over prepare for what you're going to see?
I don't think you can. Like playing against a lot of the top teams in the world, helps just to build your confidence, and if you're staying in games, and obviously in the tankard, like Kleider put up a heck of a fight, and they're one of the top teams in the world too. And to be able to compete with them and end up coming out on top against them, and they're good guys to play against too. But playing against the big teams helps to gain that confidence a little bit. But again, back to the ice conditions, it's just trying to prep yourself the best you can for what you're going to see out there. And hopefully it all falls into place. You got to catch your breaks and your bounces too at national championships. So hopefully we can catch a couple and just play well.
And so are you on the ice 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week? How does that work?
Yeah, definitely on the ice multiple times a week here over at the Highland Curling Club. They've been gems to us so far, gearing us up for some of the best ice we can practice on. And I know we're taking some sessions with Brian Munz, our coach, to really get focused on the mental side of things, and obviously hitting the gym maybe a little bit too, just to keep your legs moving and whatnot for a long week too out there.
Not so sure that I like the way you looked at me when you said that about hitting the gym, but whatever, we can let that go. Yeah. Matt Ring is our guest. Of course, you're going to be volunteering and very busy next week with the USports Curling Championship again. When does it run? Where does it run? And how do we get tickets?
Yes, it starts on Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. is the first draw. Tickets are Regina-Cougars.com. You can head on there, and obviously welcome you at the door too, and we'll have some fun over at the Cali.
Well, Matt Ring, really appreciate your time on this Friday heading into a long weekend. All the best next week. We'll be following along and cheering on our U of R Cougars teams very, very closely. And then when it comes time before the Brier, hopefully we can chat before then. But all the best out there, too, in Newfoundland.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dave. Cheers, guys. See ya.
Matt Ring joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline on a Friday afternoon. Yes, next week it's the USports Curling Championship, as you heard, kicking off at the Cali on Tuesday, and the SportsCage will keep you covered all week long at sportscage.com. We need to take one more break. Come back with your sports ticker, tell you what's happening in the big Canada-Switzerland hockey game and more. It's all ahead right here on the SportsCage, streaming on X, YouTube, and at sportscage.com, and of course on the radio at 620 CKRM. Rolling through a Friday afternoon before the long weekend. Beautiful day, plus 2 degrees in Regina. Wherever you're listening, thank you so much. SportsCage.com is where you can find the stream. And of course, we're on 620 CKRM. Thanks for keeping us company. Keeping you company today, the Olympic Games, of course, in Milan. Cortina on the ice right now. Team Canada, through 40 minutes of play, is leading Switzerland 3-1. McDavid and Celebrini have scored. Celebrini's his second of the tournament. McDavid his first. However, there's Beergate, Colson. Beergate!
Yeah, I saw on social media apparently fans are throwing their drinks on the ice, and the players aren't too happy about it. Don't know how verified that information is, but that's what I'm seeing.
No one is ever happy with spilt beverages on a Friday heading into a long weekend. I'll have you know that.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Thank you. 3-1 after 2. Also on the Pebble Ice today, busy one for Canadians curling's teams. Rachel Homan dropped her first of the event, falling 9-8 to the U.S. Said she struggled with ice conditions through the day. 2 wins, though, for Brad Jacobs. 6-3 over the U.S. and 7-6 over Sweden. In the Western Hockey League, back on this side of the pond tonight, there are 11 games, including your Regina Pats home to the Moose Jaw Warriors tonight. That game goes at 7 o'clock tonight. You can hear it on 620 CKRM starting at 6:30 with Dante DeCarry on the call. Of course, the Regina Pats just out of the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. They trail Red Deer, and then 4 points up are the Moose Jaw Warriors in 7th. So a big game for both clubs tonight. Speaking of big games, the Saskatoon Blades are starting to fall. At one point, they were in 4th in the Eastern Conference. They start the night in 6th. They're looking for a home ice win, which has become rare for them. They're sitting at 500 on home ice this season. The Blades welcome in the Swift Current Broncos tonight, while the Prince Albert Raiders travel down Highway 1 over to Brandon to take on the Wheat Kings. In the SJHL, there are 5 games this evening. The Weyburn Red Wings playing the Melville Millionaires. The Warman Wolverines are on Yorkton's ice taking on the Terriers. The Melfort Mustangs welcome the Humboldt Broncos. Flin Flon travels to Kindersley, and the LaRange Ice Wolves are playing the Battlefords North Stars. We're waiting on an update from the Under-18 Canadian Curling Championship in Timmins, Ontario. 2 Saskatchewan teams remain, one out of Esterhazy, and then the women, of course, in Renee Wood are playing out of Saskatoon. They both were in quarterfinal action earlier today. The semifinals will go today. The event wraps up tomorrow, again, all in Timmins, Ontario. Again, everybody wondering about what's happening in the Canadian Olympics and the Canadian Olympic hockey team. They lead 3-1, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders have just made another signing. Breaking news. I always wanted to say that. I don't think it's true. But anyways, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have signed an American offensive lineman in Jason Williams. 6'4", 320 pounds, signed with the New York Giants after the 2025 NFL draft. Spent last season practicing with them and attended training camp with the club. So he is going to be up in Saskatoon when the team gets set, of course, for their training camp in May. The Riders also added Super Bowl champion running back, Los Angeles Rams running back, Darrell Henderson Jr. today, and defensive back James Burgess Jr. all signing with the green and white today. So it has been a busy day for the front office of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And that is your sports ticker, brought to you by the Reliance Group of Companies. Coming up after 4 o'clock, we're going to talk inside the NHL. Barney Shynkaruk is going to slide in with Curtis Gammon. That is coming up, including a conversation with Brian Munz. And then a little bit later on, we're going to hear from Michaela Kleisinger. Of course, her University of Regina Cougars women's basketball team are in playoff action tomorrow. They don't know who they're going to play, but we'll get inside that matchup for you and hear from Thomas Ireland, a young Saskatchewan athlete that's got a shot at Major League Baseball. That and more is coming up. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Sports Cage. I'm back here. Going to get Dave a break for a bit. Curtis is with me. Colson also having a break. On Fridays, it is for Nelson Homes. They've been doing RTMs and home packages for over 65 years. Still to come in this hour. Sprinkle of the day. Curtis and I are going to look at NHL futures. We're going to tee up the Pats Warriors a little bit for you tonight. Some senior hockey games tonight. Big games. If you missed the senior hockey report on Wednesday and you haven't been following the Monday Nooner, we will give you some of the games tonight in and around Saskatchewan. Dave's going to be back in later for an Olympic update. Now, we are going to have the NHL insider. Eric Francis is in Cabo. And we haven't talked to this guy in a while. And I'm like, it is time that, are you going to run the intro here? Do we run the Eric intro? I'll just read it. Inside the NHL, usually Eric Francis is for Sports Select, sportselect.com. You can now make your picks online, generate a QR code, go to your Lotto Spot retailer, scan it, bingo, bango, there you go. Must be 18 plus to play. Play responsibly. And you can bet on the Olympics. There's a lot of Olympic bets going on. NHL Insider with Eric away. It is Brian Munz joining us from Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's been a couple of months since Munzy's been on the Sports Cage. How are things in Winnipeg for you, Munzy? I know Curtis was asking that.
Well, you were here on the weekend, and you got the start to decent weather. I wouldn't call it Cabo by any means, but I'll tell you what, over the next 3-4 days, we're supposed to still be right around zero. So what we've gone through, much like everybody in southern Saskatchewan, it probably feels a little bit closer to it because it hasn't been a good, 8 weeks of weather that we've kind of all gone through here lately, but we're getting close. Like, we're almost here at mid-February, so yeah. We've almost survived another prairie winter, so it's good.
I was there last weekend, like you said, hockey tournament. I love giving free plugs when it's outside of the province. I always do it for Silver Heights. I didn't even make it to Silver Heights. I'm embarrassed. But there are 2 new spots. One new spot in Winnipeg, the Olympia Diner on Portage. It's been there forever. It's a nice little Greek restaurant. Oh, was that good? Oh, it's so good. Secondly, my first time ever, Munzie, I went to the Forks. My wife had to drag me to the Forks. It was so busy on Saturday evening. And we were in that market thing, and then there's guys walking around that were playing shinny outside. It was a hustling and bustling spot. So anybody that says, oh, the recession, the economy, go to the Forks on a weekend. It was jam-packed, wall-to-wall people. Do you make it down there much as a person that lives in Winnipeg?
You know what? We were talking about that just before we came on the air. It's kind of like when I lived in Edmonton doing Oiler games. You don't go to West Edmonton Mall unless somebody comes from out of town. And the Forks, for me, is kind of the same thing. Now, I will say it's interesting that comes up because we were talking with the weather getting a little bit warmer this week, and I drive over. There's one of kind of 2 ways that I can come into downtown Winnipeg from living on the south end of the city, and I have to go over one of 2 bridges to get over one of the 2 rivers. And I look every morning, and there's somebody I get to the office between 8 and 8:30 usually, or closer to the bottom of the hour. But there's always somebody skating on the river, and I'm thinking, boy, how cool would that be to skate to work, if that's what they're doing or whatever it may be. But it's supposed to be like 0 to +5 here over the next couple of days. So my son and I have actually been talking about that we want to go for a little skate down the river for sure.
Go for a twirl. It's like people in Saskatoon that they talk about how some people will paddleboard to work downtown. I think that's a fallacy. I think that's a lie. Yeah. I know lots of people. I'm from there. I don't know anyone that's ever paddleboarded to downtown Saskatoon. And then what? You carry it to the Potash Corp or wherever you work down there, Viter. Like you don't. That's a lie. I said if you see anybody floating in the river, that's something else. That's from my neck of the west, from my neighborhood. That's just people floating around doing things, or else the kayak club out there. But yeah, go for a skate to work. Okay, now we're not going to talk about Canada-Swiss because you're taping the game and you're going to go home and watch it. So we don't want to talk about that. But let's talk about Team Canada as a whole. A guy that's been around the pro game. They compile this team. They go there. We watch them play Czechia yesterday. They look... And I said this yesterday, I'm not the rah Canada guy. I'm realistic, but they look good. They look deep. What jumped out at you in game 1?
Okay, well, let me throw this back at you just real quick. Was it better than you expected it to be yesterday? And again, thank you for not mentioning today because, yes, I am recording the game, and I probably won't see it until 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock tonight. And I'll be honest, I'm never that guy to record stuff. Like, people will talk about golf championships or whatever, and maybe it's just the world that you and I and pretty much everybody else lives in. But when you work in kind of the sports business, you can't just wait to find out what happens. Like, you've got to kind of know all the way through. But I will say I have become a huge fan of this event. I was excited about it coming in, and I'll go back to my question for you. Was yesterday better than you thought it would be?
Yeah, it was. I had... on paper and any kind of hockey, the hockey my boys playing this weekend on paper. Well, paper doesn't mean, especially international hockey. Everything's thrown out the window. France is giving the Czechs a game. We see Italy with 2 shots. So yes, it was. I put myself in the shoes, or tried to, of an opponent and go, well, how the heck are you going to match up against these lines?
Yeah. So for me, it took me back to the Four Nations, because I was kind of in that same idea of, okay, well, this will be kind of cool. I'll maybe watch a couple periods to see how it goes. Well, I was locked in from start to finish. I watched every minute of Team Canada's games, and I was the same way yesterday. It was, okay, this will be kind of fun. And then the funny part, I don't know about you and kind of how you were watching it on TV, but the feed I was watching, they literally didn't take us to the rink. Like, there was other Olympic sports going on, and they didn't take you to the rink until, 60 seconds before the game actually started. Mm-hmm. And, James and the panel give you their quick little lead into it, and then CC and Johnny take you away and you watch a game. But it was awesome, and even, my son got his braces off yesterday, so him and I watched the game. He kind of got out of school for the day yesterday, we'll call it that. And, he's a hockey fan, but he's a volleyball guy first. But even he says to me, Dad, this power play, you got McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, McCarr, and then who's the other guy? I'm like, oh, Sam Reinhart. And he's like, wow, he doesn't know who Sam Reinhart is. But you think of those four guys and what they were able to do on the power play and just how quick they were able to capitalize. You obviously saw the Marner pass to Mark Stone, being a Winnipeg guy. He had the Stanley Cup here a few years ago when Vegas won, and played a little bit of a role in his day. So I've got to know Mark a little bit. And it was awesome. We're all wondering, what's Tom Wilson going to do physically? What's this team going to look like? And when Connor McDavid throws the biggest hit in the event less than 2 minutes in, you're like, all right, they're into this thing too. And it was awesome. And as the game wore on, you knew it was lopsided. You knew Canada was on their way to victory. But I still wasn't leaving my television. I was glued to this thing all the way. And that's kind of why I'm excited. I've done a really good job. I haven't looked once since the game started here this afternoon to kind of see how it's going. I assume I know how it's going, but I don't as of yet. And looking forward to getting home tonight. I guess I got to listen to music all the way home, because if I turn on the radio, then I'm going to have this whole day wrecked.
That's another thing in this day and age in 2026. It's a lot different than when you used to throw the VHS tape. Let's say Nagano, even Salt Lake City, and if you were rich enough to have TiVo back then and be able to record too, you might as well have fur coats and fancy vehicles back then. But nowadays, it is everywhere. You can't look at a screen, you can't look at your phone to find a score. So I commend you if you're going to be able to get to 6:30 or whenever to watch it. Josh Morrissey, though, yesterday, when that happens yesterday, I'm not going to say anything about today, but obviously on a number of different fronts in Winnipeg, it's worrisome.
Oh, 100%. And, you look at the fact the Jets are 11 points out of a playoff spot. Are they going to get in the Stanley Cup playoffs? I don't think so, just based on how many teams they have to jump. And they haven't been good enough all year. They can't find consistency. They can win a couple games and then they lose 2 or 3. But the biggest thing for me is the teams you would have to jump trying to get to that number 2 wild card spot. That's the hardest part. Could they go on a run? Yeah, they could. But the teams that are in front of them right now aren't going to fall off. So, you know what? For Josh Morrissey, I think everybody held their collective breath, because, I've known Josh since dating back to his days with the Raiders, and we played golf a little bit in the off season over the last few years. And those things, you look at more of the person than the hockey player itself. And when he went down yesterday, obviously, we were texting a whole bunch of different hockey guys. We're kind of all together yesterday, and it's just like, geez, I hope this isn't something that eliminates him, because obviously he didn't get to play the final game in the Four Nations either, right? So you want him and Colton Parayko looked pretty good together yesterday. So again, don't tell me, but hopefully he's okay and he's back here sooner than later.
Okay, let's talk about the Jets. Out of the break, you said probably unlikely. We talked to Kenny Weeb a couple weeks ago about things in Winnipeg. As a guy that used to call games for the team, and again, you're watching them closely still to this point, where do things go wrong? Can you put your finger on it? Is it when Hellebuck goes out?
Well, that was definitely, I think, the start. Anytime you lose arguably one of the top 4 goaltenders in the NHL for an extended period of time, that's going to have a psyche on your entire team. And hey, I thought Eric Comrie did everything he could for the team, but he's not that safety net that's back there. You take Vasilevsky out of Tampa's lineup, or you take another top-end goaltender out, it's going to affect everybody. And yeah, that was kind of, I don't know if I would necessarily say the beginning of it, because they weren't necessarily in a great spot at that point already. But the thing for me right now is the Western Conference parity. And you look at Utah and Anaheim, who currently hold those 2 wild card spots right now out of the Pacific Division. In the last 10 games going into this Olympic break, the Mammoth were 7-3 and the Ducks were 8-2. Right. Yeah. So again, kind of to what I mentioned earlier on, is teams aren't going to lose 4 or 5 games in a row, even if you go on a big heater to try and make up the 11 points that they're behind Anaheim in right now. And then, somehow you've got to get by the Kings, the Predators, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks, and then you've got the Flames, Blues, and Canucks in the rearview mirror. Now, the one thing I know from a team standpoint, and Scott Arniel said this, I think it was either before or right after their last game on the Wednesday there when they hosted Montreal going into the break, is they've got a lot of these opponents on the calendar coming up. But again, the problem is, you can win your games, but you pretty much need help from the entire NHL to knock off a lot of these other clubs more often than not. And, I hate to say it because I love to watch Stanley Cup playoff hockey, and I want the Jets to win a Stanley Cup as much as every other Winnipeg fan does, but it just might not be the year.
Will they make some moves? Maybe not to make the playoff push, but are there guys that they could get rid of? Is a Luke Shen, could he end up going somewhere? I don't know. Can you see any of that happening?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I know Luke's gone through a lot since he came into the team with, his family still staying in Nashville, and now they're here and they're part of the community. And, I know that doesn't mean anything in the landscape of hockey, but I think it probably does to guys like you and I that are getting a little bit older now and understand the family side of it more than maybe what we would have looked at a decade or 15 years ago. But, for those guys, that's a big part of it. Now, they're obviously compensated very well and they know exactly what they're in for. So that's just kind of part of the game. But, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some serviceable players on this team that other teams that are in the mix right now or above the line that know they're going to make a playoff run. Wouldn't surprise me to add those players for depth, because really that's what Winnipeg did, right? When they were making their charge, they added players that had some postseason experience to the lineup to try and make them get over the hump. And obviously they had a really good run last year, just didn't go as far as they would have wanted.
It's the NHL Insider segment here with Eric Francis out. Brian Munz is joining us from Winnipeg. It's brought to you by Sports Select. Let's shift gears for a second. While I got you here, I want to knock off a couple of these questions. How about your old team? Speaking of things up in paradise, the PA Raiders. I know you're keeping tabs on them. What they're doing up there is special, Munzie. And I wanted to ask you, when you called things back at I don't know, it was the Hauser, maybe it was the Communiplex, I don't know. Wildest game that you remember? Packed milk crates. What was that for you?
Well, so they were not good when I came in. It was the Communiplex, and then the whole Bring Back the Magic campaign went through PA when they renovated the arena. They put the brand new lobby and all that kind of stuff on the front of it. That's when it became the Art Hauser Center. So it was neat to be able to watch all that. But yeah, when I was there, we weren't good. So I didn't really, the first couple of years, we beat everybody up and we won some games physically, but again, different era, different time, different conversation. The fun part for me actually was the year I left to go to Edmonton, the lockout year, to call Roadrunner games in the American League. They made it to, I want to say it was the Eastern Conference Championship. And I went back because the Roadrunners that year in the American League, Edmonton's team didn't make the playoffs, so I had a chance to go back and hang out. And it was milk cartons and people hanging from the rafters pretty much in that building. And to me, I love going into these old rinks. I understand the new rinks, the corporate side of it. They've got an unbelievable complex now in Steinbach, about 45 minutes out, where the Pistons play, an MJHL team. Still haven't been to the new rink in Estevan or Melville. But I love going back to the Art Hauser Center and just being a part of that atmosphere. And obviously for them to win 40 games going into their game tonight in Brandon, I wanted to go down. They're only 2 hours away, but family duties called tonight, so I won't get a chance to watch the alumni play the Wheat Kings, who are in a battle for a playoff spot themselves right now. I think they're in, but Barney's got them playing pretty good as of late. But it's been fun to watch what the Raiders have done, and they were kind of neck and neck with Medicine Hat for a long time there, and all of a sudden they've been able to really flip the switch here and get going. And by the way, I love the new third jersey, that pirate they've got. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
But a local guy, I guess, kind of designed that new logo, and they've taken and run with it. And to me, at some point here in the near future, maybe hopefully they make the switch, because it's pretty cool. It's good merch.
Yeah, we had Clifford Mapes on a couple days ago, just talking about all the great. They're going through merch up there. They got $2 ticket night on Tuesday, but they only can sell like 200 because the place is packed. Okay, and then before I let you go, I want to get your take on what's going on. Again, you called a lot of SJHL games. What do you think about the SJ? Is it Flin? Is it Mike Reagan? Is he going to finally do it this year in Flin Flon? Although Yorkton's playing good hockey, we got Weyburn. What do you think of the SJ?
Well, I haven't watched as much, keeping an eye on the three teams, obviously, that I called, Humboldt, Melfort, Nipawin. But yeah, from everybody I've talked to and kind of looking at the standings every few days, it's Flin Flon's year. And boy, we talk about venues like the Art Hauser Center and the old Whitney Forum, when they get rocking in the playoffs. Actually, I've got to go to northern Saskatchewan or northern Manitoba for a bit of a golf tour coming up here in early April. The courses won't be open, but I've got to do some real job work, and it might just conveniently coincide with a Bomber game at some point up there. I'd love to get back. I haven't been up there, obviously. When was the last time when they hosted the Royal Bank Cup? I went up for a couple days. That's got to be, 10, 12 years. I was doing the Jets by then, so I would say it's within 10, 12 years that the last time they had the RBC Cup there. It was so cool to get back and see so many people that are still around the rink. That's the fun part about junior hockey is you get a chance to reconnect with so many people that had a big part on your life.
I don't know if the commission's listening again, and I'm going to throw it out, because every spring I'm like, all right, let's load it. I'm going up to finally check out the Whitney Forum, and then I bail on them because the kids have something. Maybe this is the year. Maybe it'll be the same trip that year floating through northern Manitoba.
So, you're really the only sports show in the province that talks all episodes and levels of hockey. I don't understand how somehow, especially you being the great sales guy that you are, to get, one or two sponsors is all it takes. And the SportsCage is live in each night of the SJHL championship. It only makes sense. Think of how good that could be, Barney.
I know. And maybe even, sleep at the Hallwood Inn up in Waskasiu like the old days when he used to cover the lobstick. God, those were good times, Munzie. But
those were good days.
We got to move on. We're on the back nine now, bud. We're on the thanks
12 full. We've got some time to go yet.
Thanks so much for doing this and stepping in. We will touch base more. I appreciate you. Appreciate this. And again, get home. Pour yourself maybe whatever tickles your fancy, and watch that game, Canada-Switzerland, that you recorded. Have a good weekend, my friend.
All right, Paul. Yep, it's going to be fun to watch that, and obviously the Raiders and Wheat Kings online on Victory Plus as well. How cool is that? You get a chance to watch all the games now.
I know.
Life's good.
I know. Yeah. I know. It's awesome.
See you, dude.
Okay. See you, Munzie. There he is. Filling in for Eric Francis on the Inside the NHL for Sports Select, Brian Munz. He's called a lot of hockey games. SJHL, WHL, then like he said, the AHL, and then the Winnipeg Jets, the Oilers stopped there as well. He knows his stuff. I don't know. Yeah, Winnipeg doesn't make the playoffs. We had plans. Me and a couple guys had plans to go to a playoff game in Winnipeg this year. Guess that's not going to happen. now probably Flin Flon. Flin Flon, it is. Again, it was brought to you by Sports Select. Simply make your picks online now. Generate QR code and go to your Lotto Spot retailer. Let them scan it. Must be 18 plus to play. Bet with the original. Get cash in hand. Sports Select. Speaking of that, let's go to break and then come back with a little sprinkle of the day. Curtis is going to stick around. It's the Sports Cage. We are the home of local sports in Saskatchewan, streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com. Welcome back to the Sports Cage on this Friday for Nelson Home, supplying home packages and RTMs for over 65 years. We're kind of bouncing back and forth here. We got a lot of moving parts today. If some of you are watching the end of hockey, we weren't kind of giving you the lowdown there, but in curling today, interesting stuff. Team USA women's curling defeated Canada 9-8 in round robin Olympic play, marking the first time the American women have beaten Canada in 9 Olympic meetings. Not sure if you sprinkled on that today on curling. Love gambling and betting and having fun on curling. Let's go to sprinkle of the day for Sports Select. You see it there if you're watching the stream. Every bet is 100% legal, must be 18 plus to play, and now you can go online, make your picks, get a QR code, go to the Lotto Spot retailer, and they scan it. Okay, sprinkle of the day. Curtis is in. A lot of you out there wonder where Curtis has been. We love the lovely Curtis is back in for sprinkle of the day, because we were going through the futures and you were a little taken aback with how many different future bets you can play on Sports Select. Olympics through the roof. Now people are like, what's a future bet? What's a future bet? You're betting on, so what we're going to look at is the Stanley Cup, the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference winners in the NHL. Kurt, did you have any idea that Sports Select did this, Curtis?
Well, I did hear on the Sports Cage that they do future bets. I've never been a huge future bet person. I've only ever done it once, and it burned me pretty bad. So,
what did you take?
Not this year, but last year I did the World Juniors.
That's right. I remember that.
Didn't work out so well for me. So
okay, Eastern Conference future bets. If you're watching the stream, you see it up there. If not, we will let the favorite right now at Sports Select to win the Eastern Conference is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're in a break, yes, and when they come back, 285. That actually surprised me. I thought for sure it would have been Carolina.
Yeah, I'm a big Hurricanes fan. Big Seth Jarvis kind of guy.
345. That is the Hurricanes. So there's got to be good value on this board somewhere when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Right now, the wild card teams, as it stands right now, a lot's going to change, would be Buffalo and the Boston Bruins. Now, just for sentimental, because they haven't been there in so long, they've been a bit of a doormat, dumpster fire, whatever, the Buffalo Sabres. What if a guy or girl just threw down a little sprinkle on the Buffalo Sabres, paying $15.50 there in the East? Okay, can we go over to Toronto Maple Leaf fans? You're sitting at 25, by the way, and Montreal Canadian fans, you're at least realistic. You're at 14 to 1.
Shout out to John the Habs fan.
Let's go to Western. God, this is interesting here. Colorado, yeah, okay, I get that, 225. I love the value on the Las Vegas Golden Knights to win the Western Conference. If you went right now to your Lotto Spot retailer, did the QR code or picked it at the Lotto Spot, you get 5 to 1 odds. So you put down $1, you're winning 5 on the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Edmonton is 6, so there you go, Oiler fans. And then the Dallas Stars, 850. There is another trade deadline. I wonder if the Dallas Stars will make a move. We'll see. I'm not going to lie. There is a little sprinkle I have on the Minnesota Wild to win the Western Conference. I placed it quite a while ago. And I don't know why. I think it was right around when they picked up Hughes. So the wild card teams, Curtis, currently, when we come back from the Olympic break, are the Utah Mammoth and the Anaheim Ducks.
They got quite the spread there. $30 on $1 for the Ducks if they win the conference.
Yeah.
You think they could do it?
No. And the Utah Mammoth pay $18.50. So quite, like you said, quite the spread from $18.50 to $30. Where's the Los Angeles Kings? They're not even in the playoffs as we stand right now, but they're $12.50. That's realistic. And what about young Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks? If they make a move in the next trade deadline, they're way down there 117 to 1.
I feel like that's one of those ones where you put maybe like your parking money on it and just see what happens.
There you go. Parking money, coffee money.
Exactly.
Dart money, whatever you want to do. So the futures are all there. And it's really crazy if you want to go into the futures at sportselect.com and look at the Olympics and the different things. But we just wanted to run down some of the NHL stuff as we're into break here. sportselect.com. Get your QR code, go to your Lotto Spot retailer, scan it, and there you go. Every bet is 100% legal. Must be 18 plus to play responsibly, and a chance of winning cash in hand. Curtis, cash in hand is key. All right, I want to move on here and just go quickly. I know tonight we said big game at the Brandt Center. Regina Pats, Moose Jaw Warriors. If you missed it, why? Because standings-wise, it is Moose Jaw with 2 points in hand on the Regina Pats. The Pats are sitting with 41 points. Moose Jaw's 45. They could close the gap a bit, and then Red Deer currently has the 8th spot in the playoff field with 42 points. So Regina, big points tonight. Red Deer is in action at home against Medicine Hat, and Medicine Hat's an absolute wagon, so tough spot there. Big one for the Pats tonight. Elsewhere, Saskatchewan teams, Prince Albert is in Brandon, Swift Current is in Saskatoon. WHL reports this month brought to you by Affordable Trailer Sales. They are having their outdoor celebration. If you're going and looking at trailers this weekend, head out to Affordable Trailer Sales, South Service Road. Family run business. They've been in business over 20 years. They're not going anywhere. They're not selling out. They take care of you. Every new unit purchase comes with an instant cash rebate this year. Their sale is on until the 16th of the month. They didn't go indoors. They're saving you money. They're saving themselves money. They're passing it right on to you. Affordable Trailer Sales, family-run business, South Service Road. The outdoor celebration is on there. And another thing, before we go to break here, we had our senior hockey report on Wednesday, and yes, there's been a few text messages. I might be going to Lumsden tonight for that Game 2, Lumsden-Davidson, Senior A, but around the province and like in Kindersley, Oxbow, Kenora tonight. Kenora, what's up? Get the borscht out before the game. Leroy's in town. That's Game 2 of their provincial series. How about in Wawota? Game 2, Milestone in town. And then on the Ochapowace First Nation, the Round Lake Bears, understaffed tonight. They're missing some bodies. The Moosomin Rangers coming in Game 3, the deciding game in Provincial A tonight on Ochap. That'll be a gooder. So much great senior hockey going on in communities around Saskatchewan. We are the home of local sports here. The Sports Cage, we are streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com, always on the big stick. 100 years, the big stick, 620 CKRM.
Tag, we're it.
We're back.
We're done. Well, no, we're not done. We're a long way from done. We're just getting started. It's the Sports Cage on a Friday. Dave and Colson run back into the studio as Barney and Curtis running out to catch the Canadian postgame, I guess. They won 5-1 this afternoon.
Interesting finish, though.
Yeah. That ugly finish is...
That's a better word, yeah.
Yeah. So the game with just over 2 minutes left to go, Kevin Fiala, who plays for Team Switzerland. First, we should say Canada won, by the way, 5-1.
Yes.
Sorry to Munzy if he's still listening. That's on me. I should have given the warning first. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Canada picks up a win. That's great news, but not great news. Kevin Fiala plays for Team Switzerland, who lost. And in the last two and a bit minutes to go, he went into the boards and he got hit by Tom Wilson. And Tom Wilson kind of fell on him and fell on his leg, and he had to be stretchered off. You could see both teams were affected and shaken a little bit by it. The entire Canadian bench actually emptied, and then came out onto the ice and tapped the sticks and everything for him. So it looked like an ugly injury. And
they didn't even flip him on the stretcher, which means it's probably a bad enough injury they don't want to move him too much.
No.
So that part alone is not good, because if you're secure in the injury or whatever, or if it's a concussion thing and they know it's all in your head, they'll roll you over, make sure you're strapped in correctly, whatever.
Yes.
If they just lay you on the way you find you, that's not usually a good sign. So
no, and it's likely going to be a lower body injury, a significant injury.
Yeah, because I think it was his right leg was straightened out, so it's probably left leg that they didn't move.
Yeah.
So LA Kings are gonna miss him.
Well, okay, number one, this is in the light of everything that has gone on this week in the world of tragedies. Like, this is not a tragedy. Like, it's a really, really bad, unfortunate event that occurred. And selfishly, for fans of the NHL being at the Olympics, this is a bad break, right? Mm-hmm. Because the LA Kings are going to go to the next meeting and say, hey, like, we lost one of our guys, right? And one of our key guys, in Kevin Fiala. And I'm sorry to bring that up. Like, it's a risk, and every NHL owner who apparently reluctantly allowed their players to go to the Olympics, right, for this very same reason, and of course their season being interrupted for 2 weeks in the midst of a playoff push. This unfortunately fuels that narrative, if you will.
Yeah. I always come back to now the Michael Jordan thing of, I had it in my contract, I can play whenever I want.
No, that's right.
Of a basketball, I can go play whenever I want, right? And I think the harder and harder you start pushing these athletes to take away their freedom of this sport that they love, I don't think that's a fight worth fighting, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not a multi-billion-dollar owner of a sports team, but...
No, but it was back in the day, though, that the Russian players in the league, specifically, really, and the Canadians were right there too, but said, we want to go play for our country at the Olympics. Like, we're going. Whether you let us or not, we're going.
Exactly.
So, figure it out. And they did. But it's an unfortunate narrative. And, it was interesting when we were talking with Farhan, which, of course, we're going to actually replay that interview coming up for you after 5:30 if you missed a moment of it. He, of course, recapped Super Bowl, talked CFL Free Agency, and we talked about the Olympics.
Yeah, the score in that game won't be accurate then. But
No, that's true. But the one thing that was glaringly accurate, and I can't remember who it was, and again, I apologize, whether it's on the text line, of course, at 306-936-6262 or through our YouTube chat, someone pointed out, and I got to scroll. I'm scrolling. I'm going to grab the mouse and scroll. But pointed out that when Farhan alluded to it, right, and said that there are only about 7 countries that care about hockey. He's kind of right.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you name the 7 off the top of your head?
Czechia, Russia, Latvia, Belarus, Canada, US, Germany. How many am I at?
That's 7, and you still haven't hit the Nordic countries.
No, and you haven't talked Sweden yet, Norway.
Finland.
Denmark.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so maybe there's more than 7 countries.
That's about 10, 12, but...
It is global exposure, though, right? And you're trying to draw new fans, new eyes to your product. And that's what it's all about, right? Just, again, that's the big coup that flag football is going to be when it comes to the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, right?
Exactly.
You're bringing more eyeballs to that game. And flag football is a very different game than what tackle football is.
Yeah, but...
Football, right?
Exactly. It's the first step.
Yeah.
So I think that's their big hope with it, at least.
If you ever have a chance to YouTube a flag football game, it's well worth it. Like, if it's got decent production quality, it's well worth it. Like, you'll be entertained.
Especially anything championship. type game, right? Like, I mean, as we know in this province, you can go to any field and watch a 6-a-side, 9-a-side, any rink, catch a U15 game, and it's going to be some good sports. But you get a championship game, that's just the next level, right?
Yeah.
So Barney always raves about the Italians anyways in that, so.
Oh, man, there's going to be some stiff competition.
Oh, yeah.
If you think that Canada, or more predominantly the Americans, are going to roll in that, you're going to be wrong.
I per Barney's bet, which I do have in the book, that there's not going to be a whole lot of professional athletes in that. I do hope that the NFL pushes a little bit and gets a couple extra NFL players in there and it bites them in the butt. That's what I'm hoping for.
That's 100% what's going to happen, though. I agree with that.
Yeah, well, I think it entirely depends on the road up there, how the American team performs. Because if the American team's just walking through everybody, I don't think the NFL is going to touch it, because they're like, it's obviously working. We want to get as much eyes on our players as possible, of course, but we're not going to mess with a team that hasn't lost a game in 2 years or whatever, right? But if there's a couple close games or they lose one or two here and there, then I think there's a chance the NFL steps in and puts a lot of pressure on, I guess, Flag Football USA or whatever their organization would be.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they just swap in Justin Jefferson and that's the only switch, I don't think that's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
But if you add a couple more,
all right,
and make it too much of the team, then I'm like, okay, now they're out of their element. Now we've got a real chance to upset them, and that's what I'm hoping for as a Canadian, right?
Yes.
I mean, we still got to make the cut first, but we'll see.
Can you believe this conversation began with us talking about the men's win over Switzerland in the Olympic hockey game today?
What goes around comes around.
True. So they win 5-1 today. Logan Thompson got the starting goal. Jordan Binnington was given the day off. Saskatoon's Darcy Kemper backed up. Thompson made 24 saves on 25 shots in the 5-1 victory. Nathan McKinnon a goal and 2 assists. Connor McDavid a goal and 2 assists. McDavid now has 6 points in 2 Olympic hockey games.
That's right.
The record for a single Olympic hockey game in points, or Olympics games tournament, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Is Teemu Selanne with 11. So, and McDavid's got 6 through 2.
Is it? I was looking up some other stats and saw a different number, but
I could believe your number. That was the one that I saw, was Teemu Selanne with 11.
Okay. I'll do this in our next break, because that's going to take a minute. But
okay, I appreciate that.
I was looking up numbers and I was like, oh, that's a higher number than the one you just shared with me. So that's all I'm saying.
How high was it?
It was in the 30s.
30 points at a single Olympic tournament.
To be fair, this is early 1900s.
Did they have ice then, or what?
They did have ice then.
Okay, fair enough.
It was the 1924 Olympics, and I'm pretty sure it was 36, and I'm pretty sure they didn't count assists in that tournament. So that was all goals.
Wow.
And 26 was in France, and it's commonly referred to as the first modern Winter Olympics, but I do think the first actual modern one was a few years after that anyways.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But still, the stats are kept, so they got to count.
Okay, we're going to review that. Get on it. Do you think it's higher or lower than 11? Let me know. 306-936-6262. Comment on our YouTube chat. Of course, we are streaming on YouTube, sportscage.com, and we are going to be back with your SportsCage ticker in a moment. Recap the rest of the day for Canada at the Olympics, as well as take a look at what's on the ice tonight in Saskatchewan. It's all here on 620 CKRM. All right, Extreme Hockey SportsCage Sports Ticker. Find out what happened to the Olympics today. The Canadian men defeated the Swiss 5-1 in men's hockey. The Canadian women playing Germany tomorrow in a quarterfinal. In women's curling today, not good news for Rachel Homan. Dropped her lone game of the day to the U.S. 9-8 early this morning. Brad Jacobs almost had I can't say tussle, right? They had a disagreement with the Swiss this afternoon and still won 7-6 after scoring 4 in the 8th end.
The Swedes, and I called it a spat.
Yeah. Spat?
That's what I went with.
A disagreement. They agreed to disagree. There shouldn't be any of that on Valentine's weekend.
I don't think they agreed either.
No, you're right. I would agree. 7-6 the final in that one. They did beat USA earlier 6-3. In the men's biathlon today, of course, Lumsden's Logan Pletz was competing, finished 55th in the men's 10K sprint. Great showing for Logan. He had a great time as well, so good on him for that. And the 10K sprint today in men's biathlon. At the under-18 Canadian Curling Championship, Brandon Weiss of Esterhazy lost 6-4 to Ontario, number 2 in his quarterfinal matchup today, so unfortunately that ends his tournament. Renee Wood, she defeated Northern Ontario number 1 5-4 in an extra end. We'll play Nova Scotia number 2 tomorrow morning in a semi-final. In the Western Hockey League tonight, the Regina Pats taking on the Moose Jaw Warriors. Game time at the Brandt Center is at 7. You'll hear it here on 620 CKRM starting at 6:30. Other action tonight around the league includes Swift Current taking on the Saskatoon Blades. The Blades trying to get back to at least 500 on home ice. They're at 500 right now. Heck of a road record for the Blades, but it just hasn't panned out at SaskTel Center. They take on the Swift Current Broncos. 7 o'clock puck drop there. The Prince Albert Raiders are in Brandon to take on the Wheat Kings tonight. In the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, I can't believe Barney's never been to the Whitney Forum. I keep hearing him talk about it.
And then getting a text from the commissioner usually within the next 5 minutes of, come on, man, you say it every year.
Yeah. And it is an amazing venue.
Well, hey, again, I'm down for a trip. It sounds like fun.
I have never been to Flin Flon, if you believe it, in the summer or spring. There's always been snow on the ground when I go.
Doesn't mean it's not spring, but... No,
but it's something that you wouldn't expect. Like, so for example, it's built on the Canadian Shield, right? There's a mine. The mine is actually closed in town, but there's one just a little further north of it now.
Yeah.
But like when you go and you see wooden boxes and you have no idea what the wooden boxes are running around like the side of the roads or up the hills, so on and so forth, that's the water and sewer lines because you can't bury them in rock. It's an amazing place. Spent a week there for the 2001 Royal Bank Cup.
There you go.
I still have a drink. You know what they did? They didn't have drink tickets. They had drink tokens that were made out of wood. I still have one of them.
There you go. Nice keepsake.
Obviously, they weren't $15 or whatever they were at Grey Cup.
There you go.
Did I mention all of the games tonight? I just got sidetracked. 5 games in the SJ. Weyburn plays Melville. Yorkton home to Warman. Humboldt at Milford. Kindersley takes on Flin Flon. And Battlefords are playing LaRange. That's your SportsCage sports ticker for Extreme Hockey. Okay, we're going to sub out again, right?
Yes. I was also going to say, who was your player again that had the most points?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. You were looking that up. It was Timu Solani and Saku Koivu. Both had 11 in 2006. But the caveat is that it's the most points in one Olympic Games by an NHL player.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Because I was looking at 11 in total. I'm like, Jonathan Tay's got 11, but that was between 2 Olympics.
There you go.
Got you. Okay. In 06. Yeah, because, again, the one I looked up was not an NHL player, and it's from 1924, and they had 36 goals in 5 games. And I don't remember exactly, but if I'm not mistaken, in 1924, first off, they were sending club teams still. It wasn't the national team yet. But if I'm not mistaken, we outscored our opponents 116-2 in 5 games. So...
Wow.
Yeah, and there's no assists from all the guys in 1924 or 1920 on this list either. So 36 goals.
That's
with
pretty good.
However many assists he also had.
That's right. Exactly. 100-point effort in one Olympic Games. There you go.
By a team effort. That's a team effort.
Team effort. Yeah, that's right. Team effort. Hey, speaking of teams, University of Regina Cougars women's basketball team, pretty darn good. They're hosting a playoff game. They don't know who they're going to play tomorrow. We'll hear from head coach coming up in just a moment, Michaela Kleisinger. Also, a young Saskatchewanian that wants to make the Major League Baseball roster. Or at least one. We'll tell you about that. And, of course, hear from Farhan Lalji. Call coming up after 5 o'clock. This is the Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com, and we're on 620 CKRM.
All right, welcome back to the Friday edition of the Sports Cage. I'm back with you here on Fridays. It's for Nelson Homes, supplying home packages and RTMs for over 65 years. We're going to update you on everything Olympics coming up in a bit. Also, we're going to talk to a local Regina resident who's on his way to Phoenix, Arizona for minor league baseball spring training. Very interesting story there. Kind of get a look behind minor league baseball, and then Farhan, Lalji, if you missed him in hour one, we will run that again. Regina Pats, Moose Jaw Warriors tonight. Big game. We talked about that. For the last few weeks, we've been talking about big games at the University of Regina, and it centers around the University of Regina women's basketball team. They finished 17-3 in Canada West play, 23-4 overall, second in the Prairie Division, now into the playoffs. Joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, it's Friday, don't cook, grab yourself some Western Pizza. It is first season interim coach still. She's back in the program, Michaela Kleisinger. Still interim, eh? They couldn't give you a contract or anything before the playoffs here?
Yes, sir. Still holding that title. I think as we go along here, the athletes are hating that word more and more. So hopefully we're all ready to see it go away, but got to finish this one out first.
Okay, not to dwell on things, and we talked with you late December, and then we talked about how difficult January was going to be because it was going to be Alberta and the U of S, which are great measuring sticks, right? You guys go on a 3-game slide basically in the schedule. You lose the last game to Alberta, and then you lose the 2 to Saskatchewan. Always a good thing in sports sometimes to get some callous, right, to have some losses. Did you learn anything about your team in those 3 games and the 3 losses?
Yeah, those games were really important for us because you don't want to head into the playoffs with no adversity, in my opinion. I said it to you guys in December. You knew we were coming up against some competition there, and so that's where you do the most learning, in my opinion, right? Like we came up against a really good Alberta team and split, which was honestly a successful weekend for us. Again, they were really, really highly ranked at the time, so that was a successful weekend. And then obviously the U of S is very good. They didn't lose a game all year, so that weekend was really important for us because it's a measuring stick. We've talked all season about, kind of what the end of the season is going to look like and where we want to go. And they're clearly the team to beat. So you need to know kind of where you stack up against them in order to do that. And I also think that it's an advantage to play them during the season. So then ideally, if you get another crack at them in the playoffs, you kind of know what adjustments to make and maybe you get another chance to win. So yeah, lots of learning there.
Was it beneficial, Michaela, to play them later in the season as well, kind of close to playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I think our season was this is just luck of the draw, but it sort of ramped itself up, we were playing those ranked teams later in our season. And so we've been able to talk about getting better every weekend because the competition was also getting better as we went, right? We came out of Christmas and we played Calgary, who was our first ranked opponent. So we had to be ready for that. And then a couple weeks later, we play Alberta, and then we play Sask right away. And then now here we are in the playoffs, right? So it's been good because it doesn't allow for any setbacks or lulls. You kind of have to be on your game going into playoffs, which is a good thing. That's what you want to be anyway. So
I know coaching hockey or playing it and then even football, sometimes you don't want to show everything to an opponent. It's okay, let's take the loss here, let's go watch the tape, we bank the tape, we'll go back to that. Was U of S what you thought? And then now is it beneficial to go back and say, okay, well, we were outmatched here. Maybe we can go back and then really not show all your cards and then have some in your arsenal if you do face them again?
Was the U of S what I thought? They are incredibly good at basketball. So yes, they were what I thought. And we faced a lot of adversity going up there and playing. Their crowd was loud. They're a very good team. They're a very prepared team, a very disciplined team. So we had to learn a few hard lessons on night one for sure. And to be honest with you about your question, I really just didn't think we brought what we had prepared. We weren't maybe ready for the intensity and the level of discipline required to play in that game. And so then when we went back to it on what ended up being Tuesday, we really tried to hone in on a few key things that could help us bridge that gap and get us closer. And I think, to be frank, we weren't really in a position to hold back. Like we didn't play as well as we could have on the Thursday, and we needed to really try and fight with everything we had for a win on Tuesday, but we didn't end up using everything we prepared. So there is room for growth there, and a couple of the athletes and I were talking about it after, and we're excited to maybe get to use those things if we get another chance to play them. So hopefully those extra weeks of preparedness and practice will allow us to be better at them when the time does come.
So now you guys are hosting a Canada West quarterfinal tomorrow, Saturday, 6 p.m., either UBC, Okanagan, or Brandon. How do you prepare for that? Do you prepare for both teams? Do you know a lot about both teams? Obviously you're confident with your team and your skills, but how do you, I guess, prepare watching what happens tonight and then turning it around and playing tomorrow night against one of them?
Yeah, it's been a different week for sure, because you don't know who you're playing, which is different than legitimately every other week we play in the season before this and after this, right? So it's a cool week to spend. We're in a very lucky position. Like, we worked hard to host the quarterfinals so that we don't have to play today. And so that makes for a good week where you get to really focus on yourself and the things that your team needs to get better at before the playoffs. And I've also said that we lucked out. We've got a couple of teams playing today in our space that play very similar basketball. So the style of basketball from both teams is something that we could spend the week preparing for. The X's and O's and the player personnel are the things that we'll talk about tonight and tomorrow. But from like a general sort of principles perspective, they play very similarly. So I've tried to take advantage of that and use that in our prep for the week. And again, then no matter who we end up playing, we're at least ideally 3 or 4 days ahead.
And then also when we talked in December, we name dropped some of the seniors and some of the leaders on the team. But into playoffs, a lot of times it could be the rookies or second year players that all of a sudden will emerge, and the spot and the stage won't be too big for them. Anybody that comes to mind that you want to name drop that you're thinking, hey, we're expecting a lot from these younger players going into the playoffs here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the case all season, and we've needed the contributions from Izzy Foust and Lily Vandergraaf all season. Like, Izzy's a starter for us, and Lily's coming off the bench as someone who's playing really good defense for us, which is rare for a rookie. So, that's an interesting thing that you say there, because it's true, you get into these playoffs and the 5th year, 6th year kids, they've experienced it. So they feel it a little bit more, right? They know the magnitude of what they're doing, and the young kids just go out and play, like they don't know yet what they're up against and what it might look like and what the other side of these games feels like, right? So it's, those are fun kids to watch, because you kind of let them loose. And you asked me what we learned against the U of S. Like, we learned that we need the contribution from everybody. That's the U of S and the teams we're coming down the stretch to try and beat here are not teams you can beat with 1 or 2 players. Like, we need the contribution of people like Izzy, Lily coming off the bench in order to do what we want to do and reach our goals. So it'll be fun. It'll be cool to watch, I think. Yeah.
I know a lot of coaches, they always say, don't want to look too far ahead and we want to stay in the now and all that. Where I was always, as a player of anything or a coach, I'm always like, well, you got to put out the nugget, right? Like, what are we trying to get to? So do you guys talk about Quebec City? Have you ever been to Quebec City?
I have not been to Quebec City. Which for me at the beginning of the year was a selling point. I was like, hey, we got to go there. I want to just go because I've never been. But it's interesting. I would say yes and no is the answer, because we talk about those goals, right? We want to get to nationals. Which in turn means we have to win the Canada West semi, right? So those are the milestones that we talk about. And what I've really tried to avoid is talking about the teams that might be in the way of getting us there. So from a playing perspective right now, we have to talk about just the next team, right? We play either UBC or Brandon tomorrow, and we have to beat them. We have to win that game. That's it, right? But from a broader perspective, we can talk about, we want to get to nationals. We want to play in the Canada West final. That means we've gotten to nationals, right? So we set those goals right at the beginning of the season. And that's been kind of our guiding light, I would say. And then we try to, or I at least try not to think too much about who might be the team that gets in the way of that along the way, right? We have to win the next one to keep going towards that goal. So that's where we're at right now.
Right on. Well, it's exciting, right? You get to watch tonight and then tomorrow 6 p.m. Do you, out of curiosity, have you watched any of the Olympics? Are you a Winter Olympics kind of fan? Are you watching any of that, or just watching tape and getting prepared?
No, the Winter Olympics are a nice break. You know, I wake up in the morning, drink my coffee, watch somebody ski down a mountain, and realize that, you know, it's funny because when you watch those athletes, like it makes you feel like you're just a drop in the bucket over here, you know, coaching USports basketball. But it's been a nice break. And, you know, I was talking about it with a friend the other day. It's been there's a lot of good lessons in that, right? Like, there's a lot of good lessons in role playing with the Canadian men's hockey team is a great example. You're watching someone like Brad Marchand be on the fourth line, who's literally a Stanley Cup champion. There's a lot of good lessons for team play and role play and being a good teammate in that. So there's a lot to be said for the Olympics at the same time. That's for sure.
Appreciate it. I know it's busy around there. Really excited about tomorrow night. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, and best of luck. And hopefully we get to catch up again when you're on your way to Quebec City.
Hope so, yeah. I hope we get to, like you say, talk in 3 weeks. That's the goal.
Right on. All right.
Thanks
Good
so
luck,
much.
Michaela. Thank you so much. U of R Cougars head coach. Obviously, it looks like if you're watching the stream that she could still get out there and play. So tomorrow night, 6 p.m., University of Regina Gymnasium, as I've been calling it. They play either UBC, Okanagan, or Brandon. Those two teams play here tonight. So, yeah, great basketball. Get out there and watch it. It is the Sports Cage. We're on the home of local sports in Saskatchewan, streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com.
In case you missed it, Canadian men's Olympic hockey team defeated Switzerland 5-1. They have clinched a spot in the quarterfinals thanks to that victory this afternoon. 11 games in the Western Hockey League tonight, including Moose Jaw and the Regina Pats at the Brandt Center. 7 o'clock puck drop. Broadcast begins here at 6:30 on CKRM. Elsewhere in the Dubs, Swift Current and Saskatoon face off at SaskTel Center, and Brandon is home to PA. 5 games in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League as well tonight. Melville is home to Weyburn, Warman at Yorkton. Humboldt plays Milford. Kindersley takes on Flin Flon, and the Battle Fords are in La Ronge. And that is your sports ticker, brought to you by Steelcraft Doors. Time for the clutch performer for Kellen Solar, and I can't believe you didn't do this one yesterday. Yes, Maddox Schultz got his first career WHL hat trick in Saskatoon on Wednesday night. Caden Brown had 3 goals and 3 assists, 6 points night after being challenged by the coaching staff. Caden Brown, the clutch performer, and he's back on the ice with the Pats tonight again, 7 o'clock at the Brandt Center against Moose Jaw. The clutch performer for Kellen Solar, 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout or well without electricity. Visit kellensolar.com to find out more for your livestock operation. All right, let's go back out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Of course, the perfect pie every time on a Friday. Should just quickly mention, traffic note, Albert Street South at Parliament is gridlocked. There is a police action happening there or something. Avoid it if you can. Now, to the Western Pizza guest hotline. Thomas Ireland and Barney Shynkaruk. Go ahead, guys.
Regina's Thomas Ireland heading down to Phoenix, Arizona to do some spring training. Okay, now Thomas, walk us through this, because pitchers and catchers, major league style, they're kind of reporting right now, and they're down there. But you are property of the Texas Rangers. You're going down like you've done the last couple of years. Basically, is it a spring training for the minor league players?
Yeah, so it's the same concept as the major league guys. The major league guys, their season starts a little bit earlier than the minor league guys. They play about 20 more games, so they're down there about a week earlier. The minor league guys are, but it's concepts, just for pitchers, it's throwing bullpens, doing fielding practice, and doing a bunch of meetings and getting the systems of the teams set up, and different signs and defenses, and just kind of going through that. It's just pretty much a refresher for a few weeks before you head into the season and get ready to go for April to September almost every day. So
what What have you learned the last 2 years going through this? What maybe experiences are you pulling as you go down this year?
Honestly, just keep doing what I know how to do. Obviously, with each year going back, everything gets a little bit more familiar. Obviously, that first one, it's pretty eye-opening and it's nerve-wracking, right? So I think each year you just kind of learn what you need to do to be ready to go come opening day. And I mean, for every guy, it's different, but it's just one of those things. It's going into it. I've been around it for 3-4 years now. It's pretty it's pretty easy at this point. I know what I have to do, and I think the biggest thing is just I like watching other guys work and just kind of talking with them and seeing what works for different guys. And it'd be something might click for you that another guy's doing and might help you take that next step, which gets you to the next team and ultimately closer to the end goal, which is making it to the big leagues.
Where were you last year? Give us the journey last year when you went down, I guess, in February, and then where did you start, and then how was that journey last year for you?
Yeah, so I went down around mid-February to Phoenix. Was there from mid-February, like I said, till end of March, and then I got to start the year in Low A, which is in Hickory, North Carolina. Spent most of the year down there, and then got promoted to the Hub City Spartanburgers in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And then end of the year, I got promoted up to the AA Frisco Rough Riders in Frisco, Texas.
What is the major leagues, the minor league scene like? I've always wondered that. Obviously, there's a lot of probably riding buses. What's the furthest trip? How long are you gone from home? What are the per diems? What are you eating? Like, give us a look kind of behind the curtain on what it's like to be a minor league ball player.
I mean, obviously, the minor leagues are a grind. Obviously, the lower levels are a little bit more of a grind than the upper levels. But no matter what level you're at, you're still grinding to one. Everybody on the team has that one common goal, and that's to make it on the roster in the big leagues. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like Low A and High A, AA, you're riding buses, and we've got it kind of nice now with being the minor leagues and the major leagues. The union, I guess, is kind of the same now. So we've kind of been able to negotiate over the last couple of years, like being a little bit more comfortable for players. So I think now it's like anything over 4.5 hours of travel is like the team is required to get like a sleeper bus and stuff like that. So compared to what it was even when I first got drafted, it was a lot different. But there's the occasional time where you might not be eating the greatest, but for the most part, it's like you're at home for about a week and then on the road for a week. The minor leagues, you play every day except for Monday. Monday is your off day. So I know in AA, we were in Midland, Texas, the second last week of the year, which is about 5 hours from the home field for Frisco. And then you're playing Tuesday through Sunday, and then usually you leave after the game on Sunday, and then they try and give you that Monday as the off day, your recovery day. And sometimes if it's a little bit longer of a trip, you might use that Monday as part of your travel. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you have a 2-week road trip, and then sometimes you're at home for 2-3 weeks at a time. So, but most of the time it's about a week at home, week on the road, and then you kind of mix in those 2 weeks on the road and 2 weeks at home, sprinkle them in every once in a while.
And then when you play in these, whether it's with Hub City or Hickory or even Frisco, you guys are the game in town, I'm sure. I know minor league hockey players, they'll talk about, hey, we get 2-for-1s at restaurants. We get free this at, Chipotle or whatever. When you're at home, are there some deals like that where you can go into restaurants and the ball players are taken care of?
Kind of where you're at. I haven't really experienced that too much, just because the minor leagues were the team is required to give us 2 meals a day. So
okay.
Usually for us on a game day, we're not getting to the field till around say noon, 1 o'clock for about a 7:05 start. So when we get there, usually lunch is ready for us when we arrive to the field, and then we get post game dinner after that. So really, the only thing we have to worry about is breakfast and maybe anything in between in terms of those 2 meals. But it's I know when I was in Hickory, Hickory is a little bit smaller of a town, so I know I got recognized a couple times there. But every encounter I've had has been really respectful. Like, nobody's really going too crazy. At the end of the day, they know who you are and that you're there to do a job, and that, with how the minor leagues are, you might not be there in a week. I wouldn't say I really ran into any like crazy deals at restaurants, but maybe as the levels go up, that gets a little bit better. But in terms of when I was in Frisco, you're on kind of the northern part of Dallas, so obviously Dallas is a very big city, so the games are great, and really most of the interaction you get is at the field with the fans. When I was there, I didn't really run into anybody really recognizing who I am and all that, but I mean it's still fun. I love it. It's great.
Is Hickory, are they called, the nickname baseball team name, is it the Crawdads?
Yeah.
I love the minor league baseball team names, right? Like Crawdads. Like, how awesome is that?
Yeah, they've got some good names, and even within the team name, we'll take on kind of some every once in a while we'll take on like an alternate identity. So I know one of our ones we used in Hickory this past season was the Hickory Dickory Docks. And on the hat we had like a grandfather clock with a mouse running up it. So they do some fun play on words type of things and all that in the minors. It keeps it fun, all the fans really like it and all that. So
Thomas Ireland joining us here on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Minor league baseball player aspirations, obviously playing in the majors. When you're a minor league pitcher, Thomas, are you, I guess, really leaning on and looking at the different stories of guys that have made the jump quick? Last year, we look, and it was well documented, Trey Savage, how he started. He was single A. He was in Vancouver. There was like New Hampshire, and then he makes his quick ascent to the Toronto Blue Jays. As a minor league baseball player, are you looking at those kind of stories for inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a little bit. At the end of the day, I think being a minor league baseball player, especially a pitcher, you gotta know what kind of player you are, right? And obviously, Trey Savage's his minor league career was very short, but for good reason, right? And he's one of those guys that's just a freak. That kind of like a few years back with Paul Skeens. He's another guy that rose through the ranks very quickly, and obviously that's something you look at. That's something you want to do, but it's also not something that's in your control, right?
Yeah.
The only thing you can control is your effort level when you go out there, and how you go out there and handle yourself and play the game. And if you do all the things right, then you get through the ranks pretty fast, like those guys. But those two guys, like I said, are just they're just freaks of the game, right? They have a very gift, like a very strong gift. And a lot of guys, they have that, and every minor league guy's story is different, and that's kind of what makes minor league ball fun in a way.
Who helps you out when you're back in Regina throughout the winter? Who can we name drop here? Who's maybe a coach or a mentor who's helping you get better, get stronger to try and make that that next level?
Yeah, so I train with Dustin Molken. He's a former big leaguer from Regina as well. I train with him all off season at the dugout. With Trevor Weir runs the dugout and does a tremendous job there. But I've been training with Dusty the last couple of years, and I can't say enough good things about him. He's a great coach, but also a great mentor and friend, and just a great guy to be around. I couldn't imagine spending my off season with anyone better.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, thanks for doing this and shedding some light. It's going to be kind of fun to watch the journey and enjoy your time down there. Best of luck this year. Stay safe, travel safe, and all that. And thanks for taking some time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
From Regina, Saskatchewan, 23-year-old Thomas Ireland on his way to Phoenix, Arizona for minor league spring training. If you're wondering, because I was wondering, I'm a big baseball guy. Spring training catchers and pitchers reported February 10th. So a couple of days ago, they're firing down there already. And then going back to minor league baseball team names, how about some of these? The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, the Hartford Yard Goats, Albuquerque Isotopes, Simpsons fans will remember that from Springfield. The Bimington Rumble Ponies, the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, the Akron Rubber Ducks, the Lansing Lugnuts, and the Montgomery Biscuits. Some minor league baseball names. Best of luck to Thomas Ireland from Regina. Again, it's a Sports Cage. Streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com. We're on the home of local sports in Saskatchewan at 620 CKRM.